Hello YouTube. I am currently driving on I-40 in Mulberry, Arkansas, which is in Crawford County. I'm still headed towards Tulsa. I want to drive for about another hour and 25 minutes, which will be just about time for me to stop anyway. Trying to get to a little truck stop on the interstate in Muskogee, Oklahoma. A little bit ago, I just passed probably one of my favorite truck stops in Ozark, Arkansas. It is on I-40 at about my exit 35, and it is a truck stop. It's called Workman's. And they have a really good restaurant in there. They have really good fried catfish and hush puppies. And they also make a really good homemade pie. Last time I stopped in there, I had a slice of coconut cream pie with meringue, and it was awesome. So, I know I've mentioned how I have clocks and running out of time and all that. For those of you who don't know, in trucking we have to keep track of basically 4 clocks. I wake up every morning and I complete a pre-trip inspection, and when I start my pre-trip inspection, I start my on-duty clock. My on-duty clock lasts for 14 hours and it does not stop at all. I can get credit back on my on-duty clock if I take a long enough break, like 2 hours, and then I can get a little bit of time left back on my clock and use that if I need to. But then I have my 11-hour drive clock. So we can only drive 11 hours in one day. The second we start driving, that drive clock starts. However, it stops every time that we stop. So earlier I stopped for fuel, and I was able to, or I stopped my my drive clock and went to on duty so I could fuel. And like I said, my duty clock never stops no matter what. But my drive clock does. And then once I start driving again, my drive clock started back up again. Then I have a brake clock. So every 8 hours of driving, well, actually, let me backpedal a little bit. My brake clock is an 8-hour clock. Basically, the DOT says they don't want us driving longer than 8 hours without at least a 30-minute break. Basically, they want us out of the truck, up walking around, and that break can be included with getting fuel. So let's just say, for instance, if I stop to get fuel, generally takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to fill up with fuel, and then after that I go inside to get my receipt, maybe something to drink and a snack. I can, if I burn up 30 minutes, then my brake clock will reset. There is a hazard of using your brake clock too early, because if you use it too early, that means you might have to take another break. Which I have done before, just because I just felt like taking a break early as well. But typically I try to take my break and use my brake clock about 5 to 6 hours into my day. And then we have a work clock for the week. Basically, once I reach 70 hours for the week, I cannot drive until I take a 34-hour reset. And then that's going to reset all of my clocks. Now, With the work clock, basically I can take one day off and then start earning back some hours, but it'll be 8 hours, 9 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours, each day. Or I can just let the whole thing completely reset and take a break for 34 hours. It's called the 34-hour reset. So anyway, that's, I've tried to explain it to people who don't drive, and they think it's pretty complicated. But just like in police work, it's like a second language to me. I can look at my clock, I can look at how many hours I have left, I can look at how many miles I have to drive. I need to drive, and I can tell you where I'm going to stop for the night. And then I can tell you what time I will wake up and start my day the next day. I'm one of these people, I like to get up as early as I can. I will only be about 40 miles or so from my delivery. So I won't need to wake up real early, but I'll probably get up about 6 o'clock. And to me, that's not real early, because there have been plenty of times when I get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and start driving. The earliest I've gotten up was 3:30 in the morning. I was up in Illinois, just south of Chicago somewhere, and I had to make it all the way to Emporia, Kansas, and that was a very long day. I had to get my load to a construction site by a certain time, and by golly, I did it. And I had to start my day at 3:30 in the morning, but I did it. All right, so I don't remember if I talked to you guys before or mentioned this case before, and I decided to go ahead and make the video because I thought I had mentioned that I would talk to you guys about a murder for hire case that I worked. That case was you got to understand, like, when I say something is fun, it just means it was, like, as far as like a case or police work, it doesn't mean that like it's actually fun. I mean, I would prefer these things just never happen. To be honest with you, I would prefer that, everybody just treat each other with enough respect that we don't need as many police officers as we do. But the cruel reality is we need police officers, and we need more than what is usually on the street. I had that car pass me, and they were a little bit too close, and I moved over a little bit for them. And but anyway, so I'm working one night, and my sergeant comes to me and says, "Hey, there's a guy coming in that wants to report that a friend of his wants to hire him to kill somebody." My sergeant was, kind of like, just told me, "Hey, get this information. We'll pass it up to criminal intelligence and let them deal with it." Because we were plenty busy, and that would be something that criminal intelligence could handle, especially the criminal intelligence squad that we had at that time. We actually had a squad of detectives that would I guess they really weren't detectives, but they acted as detectives. They were officers, and but they wore plain clothes, and they would do little undercover operations and drugs and stuff like that. If you guys can hear the beeping in the background, it's kind of a high tone beep. I'm passing a scale, and if you ever see the signs that say pre-pass, well, mine is telling me that I can bypass the scale. I can bypass it because it's closed, so I can bypass it anyway. But anyway, that's what that beeping was. And we're passing the scale on the right. Had my light turned red, or if I had no light at all, I would have to pull in there and get weighed. But anyway, back to my story. So this guy comes in, And I interview him. And he tells me that his friend, who he's known for a very long time, wants to hire him to kill a guy. It just so happens it was some kind of a love triangle, and the guy was dating a girl that the suspect had dated, and basically he was jealous and wanted this guy dead. The caveat to that is that the cooperating individual, he did not like the guy that he was hired to kill. I mean, he was really kind of at a crossroads that, here he has this friend who he's known for a very, very long time, and this friend came to him and says, hey, if I pay you money, will you kill this guy that you don't like? So the crossroads was, he didn't like this guy, but the guy doesn't need to die, and I mean, and kudos to the guy for coming in, I mean, he gave up his friend because he recognized that that killing somebody is wrong. So he gives me enough information for me to make the decision that, hey, we need to run on this right now. And I came out of that interview room and I told my sergeant, I said, we need to run on this right now. We don't need to send this up to criminal intelligence. This needs to be worked by us. So over the next couple of days, we spent some time getting a little bit more background information and all that. And the cooperating individual, came in and gave us a little bit more information. He told us how much the guy was wanting to pay him. He said that the guy wants to set up a meet. The guy even took him to a bank, and they got a loan application even to try and get this guy some money. So, but they never filled out the loan application. But anyway, so they, and please forgive me here, but I'm kind of thinking on the fly. We end up putting a wire on the cooperating individual, and he set up a meet, and we set up a meet. I want to say we did a controlled phone call as well, where he called the suspect, and we recorded the phone call. So anyway, we have him wired up, and we set the meet. Well, how a wire works is basically it's a microphone. It's a hidden microphone that goes to a little transmitter pack that records what's being said. Well, it also sends out a transmission. The equipment that we had at the time, and I'm sure there's way better equipment now, but the equipment we had at the time would send out a transmission so I could listen to it on what's called a repeater. Basically, it was kind of a dedicated two-way radio, almost like a one cell phone call and another cell phone, but you have to be very close. And I mean, I had to be really dang close. They met in a 24-hour little diner restaurant, and I was literally sitting across the street in a car lot in my unmarked police car that looked very much like a police car. It was a gray Dodge Charger. Very much looks like a police car, but I was in the middle of a bunch of cars, so it worked out for that. And my partners and sergeant and everybody, they were working the perimeter, and they would I would give them updates over our police radio. But I believe we probably were using channels that aren't scannable. So the people with police scanners can't listen in. But anyway, so they're talking about doing the deal. and then they're deciding that they want to go back to our cooperating individual's house to drop him off. And let me go ahead and backpedal too. Like, the suspect picked up our cooperating individual at his house, and we followed him from his house to the diner. That's what it was. Well, unbeknownst to us, and this definitely was not planned, or else I would have probably said no, but unbeknownst to us, the cooperating individual's adult daughter went with him. I don't remember. I think she did know that he was being wired up. Yes, she did know that. But anyway, she went with them, so that's why they were driving back to cooperating individual's house, was to drop her off, so the suspect could take the cooperating individual over to the victim's house and kind of go over some things. The thing about the repeater is, like I said, you got to be close. I mean, it's got to be pretty dang close, and so I had to tail this guy in my unmarked police car that looks very much like a police car, and we tailed him back to his house. We set up a perimeter around his house. I got close enough to where I could listen in on the scanner, and then all of a sudden we lose him. The scanner just goes like there's nothing on the scanner. And what had happened was they dropped off the cooperating individual's daughter, and the suspect and the cooperating individual drove towards the victim's house. So when I recognized, hey, they must have somehow slipped through without us knowing. Maybe happened when I was turning around or something, but we tried to maintain some kind of visual suspect or visual. We tried to keep some kind of visual contact on the suspect and the cooperating individual. Well, I knew exactly where they were going because I knew where the victim lived. So I get on the radio, tell everybody, hey, we need to go circle the victim's house, and you guys set up a perimeter, and I'm going to drive around until I pick up the signal. Sure enough, after a couple minutes, boom, I picked up the signal, and all was good. So we dropped this guy off, the suspect dropped the cooperating individual off, and we met with him to kind of go over, went over what happened as a debrief. And sorry, that was a mouthful. While we had the guy wired up, and I apologize, I got to backpedal again. Oh, here's another way station, except this one is open. It's pretty common that we get way stations on both sides of the border of states. So let's see if I get a green light. And up ahead there is also a marquee that tells whether or not for us to pass. And I got a green light, and here goes the marquee that says truck bypass. Yep, truck bypass way station. So anyway, during the time that the cooperating individual was wired up, we wanted to make sure that the suspect wanted to go through with this. Basically, I gave him so many opportunities to cancel this, and had he taken one of them, the likelihood of him being charged would have been slim to none. But he would not bite, and he just kept doing it. We went as far as the guy, the cooperating individual, telling the suspect, hey, I'm going to turn off my phone at 3 a.m. and because I'm going to be stalking his house, and so you won't be able to call me after that. So you need to call me before 3 a.m. Well, the suspect tells the cooperating individual, well, I plan on being out of town because I need an alibi. He's going to take just kind of a small, brief, like 1 or 2 day trip from what I remember. And he even went as far as talking about stopping at a specific gas station outside of town at 5 a.m. or close to 5 a.m. so that way he can show he was nowhere near the house when this guy died. Because the plot was the victim goes to work every day at like 5 a.m. and he'll come out, get in his work truck, and go to work. Well, his plan was he was going to shoot him as he was getting in his work truck. So that's how detailed they made this plan. And he was going to have an alibi that around 5 a.m. he was going to be far enough away out of town and stopping at a gas station just to show that he was nowhere around. So the time for him to cancel went and passed, and we decided to go knock on the suspect's door. We were actually going to wait on him to leave so that way we can get him trying to create his alibi. Well, he had overslept, so when his car didn't leave by, like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, that's when we went ahead and knocked on his door, and we went ahead and took him into custody because we had way more than enough evidence to arrest him. We ended up searching the guy's bedroom. He lived in this great big house with his parents, and we ended up searching his bedroom, and in the bedroom, I kid you not, I found a very detailed schematic diagram of the inside of the suspect or the victim's house. Because keep in mind, the victim and his girlfriend, and actually I probably didn't tell you guys this, but the victim and his girlfriend were still friends with the suspect. Basically what happened is everybody's friends, victim or a suspect and a girl are dating, they break up. Sometime after that, girl starts dating the suspect's friend, but everybody stays friends because they didn't start dating until well after the breakup. It wasn't like she left the suspect for the victim. But anyway, so he had opportunity to be inside their house that they shared, and it was super detailed. They even had a roommate, and he had that bedroom labeled as light sleeper. He had a kind of marked an area where there's a pile of clothing in the corner of the bedroom. He marked where the refrigerator was. It was just that detailed that everything and anything that you could imagine was in the house labeled. So there was at one point that I believe he was going to use that to actually kill this guy if the murder for hire didn't happen. So anyway, I want to say that he lawyered up and or refused to give a statement, which I've covered. That's fine, and I booked him in the jail. So I go to the victim's house, and I make contact with the victim, and the first thing I tell them was, hey, I just want to let you know you were never in any danger because we've had constant surveillance on this guy, but this friend of yours wanted to hire somebody to kill you. Well, the girlfriend and the victim were just both in shock. I want to say they even said, but he's our friend. But I said, that's what we have. I said, we had somebody come forward because the suspect had reached out to that person to try and hire them to kill you. Well, then they wanted to know who the cooperating individual was. I told them his name, and both of them were like, you know what, that guy, we don't even like that guy, he's lying. And I told him, I said, no, he's not lying. And I said, and he told us that he doesn't like you guys and you guys don't like him, but he doesn't want you to die. And I told him that we had everything on recording, and I actually listened to it live, and it is definitely above board as far as cases go. You know, we got him on audio, on recorded audio, soliciting the cooperating individual to kill him. So anyway, so I do all my reports and everything and send everything up to the DA's office for charging. And in my report, I called this guy, and I mean, you got to realize too, I was kind of a new detective still at the time. I probably had like 6 months on as a detective maybe, and the only thing I had done before that was patrol work, and I patrolled the high crime areas in my city. So I never really worked much with confidential informants or informants, and I referred in my report to this guy, the cooperating individual, as an informant. And apparently that is a great big no-no, because informant basically means there is some kind of compensation for them to give up this information, and there was none. This guy came to us, and I use the term informant because he was a person who came in and gave me information. That's it. That's how I based my decision to call him an informant. Had no idea that there was an actual definition for it as far as legality wise, and we had probably 2, 3, maybe even 4 court hearings where I was grilled about calling this guy an informant. And basically I just took the hey, I didn't know route, and he's just a guy that came in and gave me information. Informant is obviously a root word of information, so I went with it. Or information is a root word of informant, I guess. But so I went with it. And that was a big no-no. So I learned a valuable lesson that not call somebody an informant unless they are actually an informant. And informants, at least our department, had files. They had files on informants to make sure that everything was above board. And even confidential informants, we just to make sure that everything was above board. So anyway, that guy actually that was one of those cases that I did follow because it was just very interesting. And for all that, trying to actually hire somebody to kill this guy, he got something like 4 or 5, maybe 6 years in prison. It's been so long ago that I don't remember. I just remember it was actually a lot lower than what I thought. I figured that if you actually try to hire somebody to commit first-degree premeditated murder, I thought there would, honestly, I would have assumed there would be a 25-year prison sentence to go along with that. But alas, he did his little 4, 5, 6 years and got out a long time ago, because that case was probably 2009 maybe when I worked that case. But anyway, just as always, please give me some feedback. I'll even take constructive criticism, and tell me some things. If you got some things you want me to try and come up with a case about, let me know, because I've worked everything, and I mean everything, from a $10 theft to a quadruple murder. About the only thing that I haven't done was go undercover, but that was done by different officers in our narcotics squad were basically who handled undercover work. But anyway, let me know, and I'll see what I can come up with. I do plan on talking about the quadruple murder. I probably don't plan on talking about the $10 theft, only because I just remember that. What makes me remember the $10 theft, it was literally like the smallest amount I've ever investigated, and it kind of just blows my mind that we're going to invest 5, 6, 10, 20, whatever working hours into investigating a $10 theft. Because bottom line is, there's a lot of crimes that go along, and I wish we could investigate every single one of them. Unfortunately, we cannot. You know, we have to prioritize or triage crimes, and some of your low-level crimes just aren't going to get investigated as intensively as your high-level crimes, if they get investigated at all, to be honest with you. A lot of times there's just no evidence to go along with those low-level crimes. But anyway, let me know if you like the videos, and hopefully I will come up with another one soon. Have a good day.